Hey, it's Jay. I only remember being excited about Saturday morning cartoons once. My cartoon watching habit as a preteen included waking up at 6 in the morning so I could watch Scooby-Doo before school. This would be the original 1969 Scooby-Doo, although the others leaked in eventually. After school, I'd watch more cartoons on Nickelodeon. One of the Nick shows I liked was Doug, because this character was vaguely me-shaped, an anxious, imaginative, huge dork. And while I wish he would stop talking about patty mayonnaise, the show was enjoyable enough. So when I heard they were making new Doug, and all the characters had growth and change, a modern Doug, well, I was on board. I love a sequel series. So I made sure to tune into the fall 1996 ABC Saturday Morning, which gave us two exciting new shows, Disney's Doug, which is fine, and Mighty Ducks the Animated Series, which is absolute garbage. This show is sloppily made, written poorly, with awful characters, confusing plots, and just the highest level of 90s radical excess. Nothing more than a low-budget cash-in attempt to capitalize on the sudden rush of enthusiasm for hockey because of the Mighty Ducks movie franchise. Completely forgettable drivel, a punchline of a series, up there with sewer sharks and biker mice from Mars. I don't hate it though. I don't like it. I watched the whole thing and it's trash, not fun to watch, a complete waste of time, surely not worth making a video about. And yet, here we are, because there's definitely something going on with Mighty Ducks the Animated Series, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is. So one day, a bunch of alien ducks came tumbling out of a wormhole above a city in Southern California and took over an ice stadium, registering as a sanctioned hockey team as a cover for their continued protection of the human race from the evil Lord Dragonus, who is secretly hiding on Earth. They have modified the arena to act as their base, able to convert the rink into their headquarters with a giant supercomputer, a laboratory, a huge garage, private quarters, security drones, and a launch pad for their spaceship. Despite the protestations of the only police officer in town, they are also solving crimes on the side, stopping bank heists and whatnot. But why are these ducks here? Well, you see, they come from a different universe where everything is hockey themed. The planets are pucks, it's always winter, their hero figure crafted a hockey mask that can see anything and also confers leader powers. When you wear it, you are the leader, and you will win automatically. They are living in peace after banishing the Saurian fleet to another dimension, until one day Warlord Dragonus, the last Saurian whatever, launches an attack and immediately imprisons the entire system. Okay. This looks bad, but not that bad, because you can easily pull two guys out of line and let them join the Resistance, a crack team of highly competent, highly unorganized, totally radical ducks, and the 7 of them are the last hope to take down Dragonus himself. They fail, but manage to do enough damage to get the villains to flee through a wormhole, and they follow, losing their charming and mostly forgettable leader Canard. Yes, they are all named like that. So they settle in and have to stay on Earth because Dragonus is always hatching another scheme to take over the world. But he can't be bothered to leave the greater metropolitan area. He doesn't have enough crystals. Oh, but if he got his hands on some crystals, he'll be able to take over the world in a day and a half. Just you wait. He's going to use the crystals to mind control the whole world or whatever. There are 6 members of the Mighty Ducks team, and they're all pretty flimsy in terms of character. They have traits, sure, but they don't have character growth or storylines. They don't have relationships with each other. They are the Mighty Ducks, and they have a job to do, and it's being the bad guys. Here they are from worst to best. Nosedive Flashblade is a young, dumb idiot of the team. He is very radical coded, always shouting and telling jokes and never shutting up. He feels like a teenager amongst adults, barely of decision-making age, and cannot be trusted alone. Still doesn't stop him from being a pro hockey player or a skilled combatant. He'll just occasionally do something stupid like design a combat Zamboni or not know how blenders work. He's the one most attached to Earth stuff, being a comic book fan and lover of pop culture references, and the most empathetic, able to bond with this stupid little alien who becomes a kaiju monster. Unfortunately, he is extremely annoying, and I don't want to talk about him anymore. At least he has a personality, which is what I cannot say about Mallory McMallard. Her name is the same duck pun twice. It's awful. She was a commando in Puckworld and has red hair, and that's about it. She's such a cop though. She gets really excited to meet the world's only 6-star general, and one episode she's just a huge dick at another character because he's an ex-criminal. He didn't do anything yet. Yes, he does in fact go on to steal jewels without communicating that he's doing so, but come on Mallory, this isn't even your jurisdiction. Knock it off. Grin is just a big guy who follows the ways of Tai Quack Do, which he learned from a master who is somehow both an offensive Asian stereotype and an offensive Jewish stereotype.
What is the sound of one team playing?
Don't tell me.
Hey! This kid's as sharp as a sack of doorknobs!
So, he sucks, and Grin sucks enough on his own, always having some new agey thing to say before immediately deciding to resort to violence to solve all his problems. He's also extremely lazy, often taking opportunities to just hang out and be one with the universe or whatever. I find his whole thing obnoxious. He acts really high and mighty when really he's just a bully. He and Nosedive also hang out all the time so they can be stupid together. Wild Wing is the de facto leader, having been handed the mask by the previous leader when he got sucked into the void. He's a pretty normal duck, although he suffers from feelings of inadequacy and often blames himself for the team's failures. He is the goalie of the team, and is often yelling at people to move out, or fight back, or so forth. Not a lot to say about him, except maybe have a serious conversation on what was going on with the Flash Duck flock that they named their children like this. Why are they named after rad skateboarding moves? Duke Larange is a former jewel thief who acts exactly like you expect him to. He's braggadocious and endlessly cool, he's got an eye patch, and a laser sword that he's always swinging around. He can pick locks if needed. At one point he fulfills an ancient fantasy world prophecy by picking up a sword. I like his sleek, contrasting character design, even though his name is dumb as hell. Tanya is a highly skilled scientist and engineer who designed all the Mighty Ducks gear and has a fundamental understanding of literally all science and is capable of whipping up whatever advanced tech they need to solve all of their problems. She has an Omni tool that can do pretty much whatever she needs. Lasers, tiny saw blade, that kind of thing. Not that she needs it, as even without it, she's fairly capable. The only thing I don't like is her big dumb goggles and the decision to have her talk like she has a stuffed up nose, which is apparently canon as she is allergic to feathers.
Don't be ridiculous. Ducks can't. Right, I'm hurrying.
Do not ask me how this works or why she doesn't just science the problem away. She's also the only character that seems to have emotions and inner life. She actually gets sad being abandoned on Earth, and makes human friends like Dr. Huggerman, a man of science who has abandoned the human race. Plus, look how good she looks in this 90s fashion. They say these are bad outfits. This show doesn't know what it's talking about. For reasons I'm not super clear on, there are 4 core villains that are usually involved in every single scheme. These are the evil Lord Dragonus, his advisor Wrath, his muscle Siege, and his spy master Chameleon. These 4 are included in nearly every scheme, and each gets about an equal amount of dialogue. This is because each member of this fearsome foursome is voiced by one of the most famous villainous voice actors of the 80s and 90s. Dragonus is voiced by Tim Curry, who voiced Hexus and Ferngully and King Chicken and Duckman. Wraith is played by the voice of Judge Claude Frollo and Megabyte, Tony J. Siege is voiced by Clancy Brown, who has played Lex Luthor and Mr. Krabs. And Chameleon is one of the many voices from Frank Welker, the Mel Brooks of our time, who has done so many voices you have definitely heard him, and has been playing Fred Jones for over 50 years. And this Mount Rushmore of villainous voices is giving the most dog shit ridiculous material to work with every episode. At no point do you ever feel threatened by Dragonus and his worthless henchmen. They are constantly cooking up diabolical schemes and getting their asses handed to them over and over again. Every single one of them is short-sighted, petulant, and cartoonishly evil for no reason. Just a monomaniacal narcissist and his 3 enablers constantly turning into corn cobs every single episode. How bad are their plans? Extremely bad, extremely stupid, very silly. Here are a few of them. Hire a Puckworld spy who is on Earth for some reason to infiltrate the Ducks, who foolishly give her full access to their base even though one of their teammates is missing, so she steals a Proteus chip from their supply and gives it to Dragonus so he can power a giant laser. The chip she stole is false, however, so when Dragonus tries to destroy DC, it doesn't work. Wildwing planted the real chip on the spy, causing Dragonus to give her a teleporter that transports her to dimensional limbo from which there is no escape.
What's happening to me?
I set that teleporter to take you into dimensional limbo, from which there is no escape.
So, she's dead then. That's a death sentence. Wildwing got her killed, and now the villains have the real chip. What a ridiculously stupid thing to do. Of course, these buffoons still lose, so it's fine. Hire a Puckworld jewel thief who is also on Earth for some reason, steal a bunch of jewels around the world, who tricks Duke, the former jewel thief, to assist him to figure out why he's doing it, and also gets into a poorly animated clock tower fight so that Dragonis can use the jewels in a device that will wipe the mind of everyone on the planet. Hypnotizes Phil Palmfeather, the Ducks manager who they just let hang around. They have no respect for his work, but also will keep going to the various promotional events he sets up, even though they hate it. Anyway, they hypnotize him to put the Ducks into a number of dangerous situations, all to distract them from their plan to steal a rocket that will explode the world or something. Kidnap one of the most violent hockey players in the league and accelerate his DNA to turn him a giant purple monster to distract the Ducks while they siphon off all the power in the city into a big electricity monster, which is easily defeated by water, and then that hockey player becomes a referee because he learned about the nobility of the game. Kidnap some dork who wants to pretend he's a superhero because he's racist and accelerate his DNA so he's a Superman, all while using some ad nauseum to contact this alien race that uplifts any culture that asks. But like, how are they supposed to know to ask? So they come down, and Homelander here steals a crystal from their ship, which deeply upsets the aliens, so they give the Ducks an hour to get it back. Otherwise, they blow up the planet. Also, in the meantime, this robot Scorpion is going to menace the city. They get the crystal back and get the Scorpion to destroy itself, and then the dork gets arrested. I'm not sure why, I guess theft. Then the aliens piss off without offering any of their tech, because fuck humans. Dinosaurs. They just make a bunch of dinosaurs and have them mess up the city for a while, see if that works. It doesn't, so they teleport the dinos to Swampland. Fund the monomaniacal doctor who has placed every person in his hometown with a robot so they can continue his mad experiments unchecked. And then the Ducks are in this town for some reason, and all get kidnapped by the robots and have to fight the Slower. This thing is a Slower. Offered the Ducks a one-way trip back to Puckworld, which they for some reason consider only for a future version of Phil to come back in time to take them to the bad future, where Dragonis won immediately and handed control of Earth over to a businessman named Phineas P. Viper, who's replaced his hands with snakes. So they go back to the present to stop this terrible, stupid future. Send some, but not all, of the Ducks to an alternate dimension that is like a fantasy version of the city, but not really because there are still fire hydrants here, and the whole alternate city is controlled by some wizard jerk named Astaroth, so the Ducks help this twink named Borg to defeat him and come back to stop their earthquake machine. Use a weather machine to cause it to snow in Southern California, apparently figuring that their primary nemesis are hockey-themed ducks who live on an ice planet. This doesn't really slow them down at all. And so on. And of course, the Ducks are constantly on the back foot, despite their skills, because they fall for literally every trap that is set for them. Time and time again, even if they are aware that this is definitely a trap, they will stumble right into it and have to exchange fire with these two mooks again. These idiots literally find themselves on a private island where the man in charge looks and acts like this.
And this? A gorilla? My passion is hunting, the thrill of the chase.
And of course they're going to stay the night. How are you getting any red flags off this perfect gentleman? Oh hell, it was a dangerous game situation. How did we not see this coming? Well... So, every single duck is aware that this is a TV show, and that's why they go along with everything. I've mentioned that writing is bad and the jokes aren't funny. It's real vaudeville, a bunch of old references and mugging for the camera. Chameleon is always telling jokes because he's a shapeshifter, but it's always an extremely dusty reference that even I, an adult who actively watched old cartoons as a child, do not know majority of these impressions. Who on earth is this supposed to be? But these writers love fourth wall breaking bits. It happens so frequently I refuse to keep count. But it felt like once an episode at least. Nosedive is the one who does it the most and the most obnoxiously, but every other main character also seems to know that yes, they are in a TV show, and this TV show is very stupid. I know Chameleon is also aware of this, but I don't know if Dragonis is on board. It seemed like he's just doing what he wants to do and is frustrated that he always keeps losing. But every time they tell a joke about how ridiculous it is that they got kidnapped 3 times this episode, it just feels like an absence of care. The characters also cannot believe this is happening, and God forbid they take it seriously. They know they're going to win, because they are the good guys, and might as well have some fun. But it's to the detriment of the show, because these jokes aren't funny. Not even in a metatextual way. It's not fun for us, it's just annoying. Stop winking at me. Everyone involved know this is dumb. They know how ridiculous 6 ducks coming from another dimension becoming a hockey team is. They were just hired to bang out a bunch of episodes for some weird TV show that was connected to a toy line that was based on a hockey team that was created because a sports movie became unexpectedly popular. I'm saying nobody expected this show to be good, and so it just isn't. Oh boy, it isn't much. I really like the theme song. It's a hard rock anthem that has a good hook, and the "Let's hear it for the Mighty Ducks" hits good every time. I like these minor characters Thrash and Mookie, who seem to run the local comic book shop but are also still in high school, maybe? These two are pretty punk rock and don't even identify as human. In a cursed future, they get transformed into mutants and they think that's rad as hell. I like them. Some good T for T representation. This he, they, she couple is going to invite you to their awesome board game night. I like this friendly bounty hunter droid that gets destroyed saving the day except for his head, and they just keep it in their trophy case. He's just happy to be there. During one episode, they apparently had 2 extra minutes, so they added this tiny bit with the Mindbender, a dork in a weird brain hat who was on this roof doing something. And they just show up and throw a bolus at him and just abandon him there. And I guess that worked because we never see this character again. That moment was pretty weird. And these designs aren't terrible, right? Wildling looks cool in a very 90s kind of way, with the golden mask and the hockey gear. This looks cool, right? I'd trust this duck to protect my city, which I have failed to mention until this point is Anaheim, California, which is known for one specific thing, and not once do they even acknowledge the existence of Disneyland. That was not cleared with corporate. At no point are they allowed to suggest that Disney is involved with this project. Michael Eisner would shut it all down if we asked. Okay, just one more question. So the Mighty Ducks are really good at hockey. You probably understand that by now. Every game we see either ends with them winning or the game ending suddenly because of monster attacks. So they have a pretty good record, beating such iconic NHL teams like the Maine Quahog and the Detroit Crankshafts and the Fairbanks Flapjacks. Since the NHL League apparently has no problem with the fact that they only have 6 players on their team, do they manage to kiss the cup or whatever hockey people do? Well, we will never know, because while they do manage to clinch the Western Conference in a 4-3 decision against the Dallas Armadillos, the same day when they managed to shoot Dragonis' ship down and it crashes into the ocean, the show did not get renewed, so we don't get to find out. And they had to top it off with this joke.
Think we'll hear from those creeps again?
That depends. Have we been renewed for another season?
Also, this episode is the 21st episode in the production order, so there are still 5 more episodes after this. Demoralizing end to the episode for sure. Alright, enough of that. You know what other show produced in the 90s has a character with a love of creating complicated villainous plans? A Canadian gem called The Adventures of Shirley Holmes, about the great-grandniece of Sherlock Holmes, who lives in rural Canada, obviously. Next time we're talking about my favorite character in the show, Molly Hardy. Get it? Molly Hardy. Bye.
My work has consumed my life, and I have produced no heir to follow in my path. But I picture you, a young man of good imagination. Any mystery devised by mortal minds can be solved therewith. Yours faithfully, Sherlock Holmes.